Good day, students. I will be doing 4.3 exercise that is at the back of chapter 4 of your textbook, and it's also attached in your study guide. It says Pieman Products Ltd makes road trailers to the precise specifications of individual customers. The following are predicted to occur during the forthcoming year, which is about to start. We are given the direct material, we are given the direct labor cost. Remember, these two are called prime cost. And prime costs are not allocated in terms of overheads. These are the direct costs. Then after we are given direct labor hours as 16,000 hours, we are given indirect labor cost, depreciation of the machine, rent and rates, heating, lighting and power, indirect material and machine hours. All these overheads from here up until other indirect costs are called indirect cost. So now these are the overheads or product overheads. Then they are called indirect cost, and these are the ones that's supposed to be allocated. Then after we are told at the bottom that all direct labor is paid at the same hourly rate. So now it means the direct labor rate is the same. A customer has asked the business to build a trailer for transporting a racing motorcycle to race meetings. It is estimated that this will require material and components that will cost 1,150. So now that means the direct material for this trailer will be 1,150. So now, although in this sentence it is said that it is estimated that it will require material and components, which is not much specific if it's either direct or indirect. So now that means the material and components that will be used will be the direct material. So now the direct material cost will be 1,150. Direct material. So now the direct material cost is 1,150 to complete this trailer. Then after we are told that it will take 250 direct labor hours to do the job or to complete the job, of which 50 hours involve the use of the machinery. That means out of the total of the 250 direct labor hours, some of the 50 direct labor hours that are included here, they will be completed using the machine. That means the direct labors will still be direct labors but using the machine. So now it means that 50 is also included in that 250 of the direct labor hours. And we are required to deduce a logical cost for the job and explain the basis of dealing with the overhead that you propose. That means whatever overhead that we'll choose to allocate whatever base we'll choose to allocate our overhead, we have to explain why did we choose to do so. Let me just first highlight and explain this side and which base will be relevant. If you look to the most popular or the traditional used bases, remember the most popular basis in the traditional approach is the direct labor hours and the direct machine hours. So now we do have direct labor hours, which is 16,000 hours, and we do have machine hours, which is 3,000 hours. So now if you can see in this case, there's more direct labor hours as opposed to the machine hours. So now it means this business is more labor intensive. Therefore now if the business is more labor intensive, it becomes logically that the base to allocate overheads should be labor hours. So now that is why when we allocate all the overheads, we will use our direct labor hours as the base. So now that is the reason why we are using direct labor hours, is because this business is more labor intensive. Therefore now it will be more logical or more relevant for us to use the labor hours as a base. It means it will be difficult for this business to function without the direct labor hours. So now this is what is given, and we are required to calculate or to deduce the logic cost for this job. That means the job that is given to us by this customer to complete the trailer that will be used as a racing motorcycle to racing meeting. And we already know, remember, we already know the direct material. Direct material, which is DM, is 1,150. So now we need direct labor and overheads, then after we totalize everything. So now let me just begin with exercise 4.3. So now exercise 4.3, we need to know the amount of the direct material which is given. Direct material is 1,150. Then we need to know the direct labor cost. And our direct labor cost, we have to calculate it. Let us check first. Our direct labor cost is budgeted to be 160,000. And that direct labor cost was based on the 16,000 labor hours. So now we need to calculate the rate to which these employees were paid. Remember, the labor cost per unit or per hour remains constant. So now if we calculate our rate to which the laborers are paid, then we can use that rate to calculate the actual rate. So now let us say 16,000 divided by 160,000 divided by 16,000. So now that will give us the rate to which our laborers are paid per hour. So now we say 160,000 rands, which is the 160,000 rands of the cost of direct labor. And we divide that by the number of the budgeted labor hours, which is 16,000 labor hours, and that gives us 10 rand. It means we incur 10 rand per hour to pay our employees. So now that is the rate per hour. Remember, direct labor cost is a variable cost, and the variable cost per unit remain constant. So now it means this 10 rand is fixed per unit or per hour, because employees are paid per hour. So now if this 10 rand is fixed per hour or it remains constant, it means we can use it in the context or in the case when we're calculating the direct labor cost when we are doing the trailer for this customer. So now that means we have to know the number of hours that are expected to be used in the calculation of or in the completion of this project. It says here in the last sentence, it will take 250 direct labor hours to complete the job. So now it means we know how many hours will be needed to calculate or to complete this project. Therefore now, if it's 250, it means our direct labor cost will be 10 rand times by 250, meaning the total direct labor cost will be an amount of 2,500 rands. Then after, we need to calculate our overheads. Then now when we calculate our overheads, we have to go to our given information and get the total of all the overheads that were budgeted or that were estimated. Then now we come and we say, okay, we have indirect material of 25,000 up to the total of 1,000, which is other indirect cost elements. So now we have to add all these overheads all together, and we divide by the labor hours, because this company is more labor intensive. Why am I saying that? Is because machine hours are lower than the labor hours. So now, as I mentioned previously, that the base will be labor hours, since this company is more labor intensive. Therefore now it will be logical for us to use labor hours as a base to allocate our overheads. So now let us calculate our indirect cost, and our indirect cost will be calculated by saying indirect cost, or you can call it overhead cost. The first one is indirect labor, and our indirect labor is 25,000 rands. There is the indirect labor, 25,000 rands indirect labor. Then we have depreciation of the machine, 8,000. We have depreciation of the machine, and depreciation of the machine is 8,000. The next overhead is rent and rates for 10,000 rands. Rent and rates for 10,000 rands. Rent and rates is 10,000 rands. Then after we have the next one, heating, lighting and power. Heating, lighting and power for 5,000 rands. We have heating, lighting and power, and the overhead cost for that is 5,000 rands. Yes, correct. Another one is indirect material, 2,000 rands. We have indirect material, and our indirect material is 2,000 rands. Confirm. Yes, it's 2,000. Then the last one is other overheads, and other overheads or other indirect cost is 1,000. Other indirect cost is 1,000. So now we have taken the total of all indirect cost. Then from here we can calculate the total of all the indirect cost. Then the total of all the indirect cost will be a sum of 25,000 plus 8,000 plus 10,000 plus 5,000 plus 2,000 plus 1,000. So now our total indirect cost is 51,000. Then from here we can calculate overhead recovery rate, or overhead rate. Our overhead rate, remember, is budgeted total overheads, and our budgeted total overheads is 51,000. Divide by budgeted base. Our budgeted base is budgeted labor hours. Remember, the budgeted direct labor hours is 16,000 rands. That is the budgeted or estimated. Remember, it says here the following are predicted. Take note of that. The following are predicted to occur. So now anything that is predicted, it is estimated or budgeted. So now that means all this information is budgeted. So that is why we take the budgeted direct labor hours of 16,000 hours. And the hours that are given here at the bottom, these are the actual hours. And these are the actual hours. So now we take the budgeted base, which is 16,000 hours, and we divide by 16,000 hours. Then after that, that will give us the base, that will give us the rate to allocate our overheads, and our rate will be 31875 per labor hour. Per labor hour. Remember, this is the number of labor hours. These are the hours. So now the recovery rate that you get will be per labor hour. Then after, now we have to multiply by the actual labor hours, and the actual labor hours is 50. Then now we have to say 3 rand 1875 times by 250. Remember, 250 is the hours that will be spent to complete the project, which is the 250 direct labor hours. Then we multiply by that. That will give us the total labor cost, and the total labor cost, sorry, that will give us the total overhead cost. Then the total overhead cost will be an amount of 796 rand 88 cents. So now we have taken the base 3 rand 18 cents times by the hours, and that gives us 796 rand 88 cents. So now this is our total overhead, or total actual overhead. Then we take that amount, we allocate it to the cost of the product. So now that means the cost to complete this project, or this trailer that the customer instructed us to do, the total cost will be 1,150 plus 2,500 plus 7,796 rand 88 cents, and that will give us a total of 4,446 rand 4,446 rand 88 cents. So now that will be the total cost to complete this trailer that the customer has instructed us to do. So now that is what was required to be done, and we have exactly completed the requirements, which was to deduce a logical cost for the job. And remember, the explanation I've explained, that is because this business is more labor intensive. Therefore now, because it's more labor intensive, then using direct labor hours will be logical, or will be relevant for us to do so. Why am I saying that? Is because direct labor hours of 16,000 are bigger than the machine hours, because these are the normal bases that are used to allocate overheads. So now we have chosen direct labor hours because this company is more labor intensive to allocate our overheads. So now that means what was required is complete. Thank you guys. I hope you have enjoyed this short exercise of your revision. Thank you.